Okay, Mr. Marshall, I see 6:35. I see that you have a quorum of the board. The attendees are coming on in. We have Amherst Media with us in the house. I don't see Karin in the attendees, but I'll just keep watching for her. And I think you're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Welcome to the Amherst Planning Board meeting of February 19th, 2025. My name is Doug Marshall, and as chair of the Amherst Planning Board, I am calling this meeting to order at 6:35 p.m. This meeting is being recorded and is available live stream via Amherst Media. Minutes are being taken. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021 and extended by Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this planning board meeting, including public hearings, will be conducted via remote means using the Zoom platform. The Zoom meeting link is accessible on the meeting agenda, posted on the town website's calendar listing for this meeting, or go to the planning board webpage and click on the most recent agenda where the Zoom link is listed at the top of the page. No in-person attendance of the public is permitted. However, every effort will be made to ensure the public can adequately access the meeting in real time via technological means. In the event we are unable to do so for reasons of economic hardship or despite best efforts, we will post an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting on the town's website. Board members, I will take a roll call. When I call your name, unmute yourself, answer affirmatively, and return to mute. Bruce Colden.
I am here.
Fred Hartwell.
I am here.
Jesse Major.
Present.
Karin Winter.
Here.
And I, Doug Marshall, am present. Lawrence Klutz and Johanna Newman had advised us they would not be present this evening. So we have 5 members present and we have a quorum. Board members, if technical issues arise, we may need to fix the pause. We may need to pause to fix the problem and then continue the meeting. If the discussion needs to pause, it will be noted in the minutes. Please use the raise hand function to ask a question or to make a comment, and I will call on you to speak. After speaking, remember to remute yourself. To the general public, the general public comment item is reserved for public comment regarding items not on tonight's agenda. Please be aware the board will not respond to comments during general public comment period. Public comment may also be heard at other times during the meeting when deemed appropriate by the planning board chair. Please indicate you wish to make a comment by clicking the raise hand button when public comment is solicited. If you have joined the Zoom meeting using a telephone, please indicate you wish to make a comment by pressing *9 on your phone. When called on, please identify yourself by stating your full name and address and put yourself back into mute when finished speaking. Residents can typically express their views for up to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the planning board chair. If a speaker does not comply with these guidelines or exceeds their allotted time, their participation may be disconnected from the meeting. Okay, first item on the agenda is our minutes, approval of minutes. We have one set of minutes in the packet. It's from December 18th. Did anyone have any comments on those minutes? Jesse.
Thanks. Yes, I like the new format. Seems to be a new format, so seems a little easier to digest. One minor comment, I guess it's really grammatical. I noticed a few places, like particularly in section 6, general housing discussion, where I think what was meant was discussion regarding something, and just says discuss a definition, for example. So it's really just maybe a little grammar cleanup. Does that make sense? Particularly in points 2 and 3 under section 6, I noticed, and then.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Jesse, those are actually how it was written on the agenda.
Oh,
And
okay.
I just try to match it up to be the exact same way. So if somebody wanted to compare an item on the agenda, they could easily find it in the minutes.
Well, I think, Jesse, are you noticing the difference between item 1, which says discussion, then
Yes,
items
and if you're correct, and if you're reading in minutes, you know,
Yeah.
it should, you know, you would read, there was discussion of content X. But
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, Pam. And like, I don't know what's proper, so.
But 2 and 3 probably could be discussion, and that would be an improvement.
I'm happy to change it. I'm happy to change it.
Yeah, Bruce?
The agenda seems to be what's intended in the future, and the minutes are what happened in the past. So that's why I think discuss changes to discussion.
Yeah. And we probably ought to be consistent in our agendas too. Karen?
Yeah, teeny thing with a comma on page 319. Did you see that? Along the minimum from comma setback line to that
Yeah,
comma.
there's an excess comma there.
Yeah,
Okay, point me a little closer to where it
Uh,
is.
It was-
Near the top of page 3.
yeah, on 19.
Item, go ahead, Karen.
Sorry, on 19. That line, do you see?
Second
Min-
line of item 19.
Yeah,
On the frontage and generally be looking. Oh,
Yep.
I sure do. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, any other comments? Jesse?
Nope, I was gonna move to accept the minutes.
Okay. So moved.
I will
Bruce?
second.
Thank you, Bruce. Any further discussion? So we're moving to approve with the edits that we've discussed. We have discussed this evening already. Okay, we'll go through the roll, starting with you, Bruce,
I approve.
and Fred,
Yes, I approve.
thank you. Jesse,
Aye.
and I approve as well. And Karen, excuse me,
I approve.
thank you. Okay. Time now is 6:42. We'll go to the next item, which is public comment. And so anybody who wants to make a comment, this is the time to raise your hand so that I can call on you. At the moment, I see 10 attendees in the public, and they are indicated as follows. Janet McGowan, a person whose phone number is available, 1-619-578-1809. Maybe you know that person. Barry Roberts, Christine Brestrup, EDM capitalized, Gail Flood, James from WAMC, Jonathan Salvon, Maura Keene, and Tom Reedy. And I know that a number of those folks are here for our first public hearing. All right, there's one hand up at the moment, Janet McGowan. Pam, why don't we bring Janet over, and Janet, give us your name and your address again, and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, hello, friends. I'm Janet McGowan. I live at 706 Southeast Street. I have a general comment that goes to some issues that you've been discussing. And I'm really excited the planning board is taking on a lot of the issues about protecting neighborhoods and the quality of life there. In my years in Amherst, I haven't seen the planning department ever address this issue about protecting neighbors from an influx of student housing that is bolstered or enhanced by investors' efforts. I feel so basically I've been attending the housing subcommittee meetings and other forums in the town, and I don't think there's one solution that's the fix, but that we need a series of fixes. The master plan directs density to the village centers and Amherst Center, not into residential neighborhoods. And so we need to balance needs, the need for student housing, which UMass can easily and simply address by building more on campus, since they have more students. We need mixed neighborhoods of students, elders, families, single people, long-term residents. And I think that restoring footnote M is a good start to. maintaining-
That's later on the agenda tonight, so let's hold off on comments about things on the agenda. Thank you.
Yeah, but I think, I'm just saying it's one of many solutions about figuring out ways to keep neighborhood quality and density at a reasonable level. And also there's other things that the housing subcommittee is looking at in terms of maintaining the mix of housing that we have. So I just appreciate the planning board taking it on and taking such efforts with it.
All right, thank you, Janet. I don't see any other hands at this point. One last call, if anybody is a member of the public that wanted to make a comment at this time about something not on the agenda. So it doesn't look like any hands are raised. So we'll go on to the next item. Time now is 6:45. We'll get our first public hearing going. All right, in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, this public hearing has been duly advertised and notice thereof has been posted and is being held for the purpose of providing the opportunity for interested citizens to be heard regarding SPR 2024-11, U Drive Amity LLC, University Drive at Amity Street, advertised for 6:35 p.m. and we're after that time, so we are good to go on that. Request site plan review approval under section 3.325 of the zoning bylaw to redevelop existing commercial space into an 85 residential unit and commercial space mixed-use development, including parking, landscape, lighting, and stormwater infrastructure. Parcel located at 13B-18, also 27, 28, 20, and 54 in the BL zoning district. This hearing is continued from August 7th, September 18th, November 6th, December 18th of last year, and January 22nd of this year. Are there any board member disclosures at this time for this continuation of this hearing? Don't see anybody just indicating they have a disclosure. All right, so we'll go to our applicants. Mr. Reedy, welcome back, and Mr. Roberts and Mr. Salvon, I guess.
Terrific.
Tell us why you're here.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, Tom Reedy, attorney with Bacon Wilson out of Amherst, here on behalf of U Drive Amity and its application for mixed-use site plan approval for the corner of University Drive and Amity Street in Amherst. With me, Barry Roberts, the principal associated with U Drive Amity, and then we have our architect, Jonathan Salvon, here as well. We have been here, as the chair mentioned, a couple of times, most recently about a month ago, where we unveiled an updated plan. As you recall, we had a two-building, three curb cut approach that had 85 units with some interior parking. We revised the plan to be a single building, two curb cut approach with, now it has 78 units. It was 77 last time. Now it's 78 because we added a studio. So there are 78 units, 225 beds, still the same amount of commercial space and the same amount of surface parking of 160 parking spaces. And when we were here last, we went away with some homework, discussion about some of the exterior spaces in the area proximate to the roundabout, and then on what I'd call the inside elbow. And then we also received some correspondence from your town planner who had asked for some additional information, which we provided last week, potentially, maybe last Tuesday. So hopefully you've had the opportunity to look at it. What I'm going to do is walk through the architectural plan is updated, the site plan, the lighting plan, just to touch on a couple of those pieces, the landscape plan, and then we're happy to answer any questions that you have. One other piece, last Wednesday, we were in front of the Amherst Conservation Commission and received the order of conditions. And so that was voted last Wednesday. We need to get a variance from the zoning board of appeals, or strike that. We need to amend the existing variance from the zoning board of appeals. The one that we have has two pieces that we need to amend. One of those is that it restricted the height of the building to no more than 57 feet. We submitted a modification request to be 59.5 feet. And this is a result of a couple of things. One, additional due diligence on site uncovered that we're going to have to raise the site a bit, or at least the first floor level of the site. Two, the way that height is measured in Amherst is from the average grade on the street side, and we've got two street sides. We've got University Drive and Amity Street. And so I think Amity Street is the determining height. And then three, this is going to be a passive house construction. And so there are, and Jonathan can get into it more if you'd like him to, but we need some additional spaces between floors, additional height in between floors to allow for ductwork, to allow certain airflow. And so because of all of those things, we're requesting 59.5 feet. We're in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals on March 13th. One of the other conditions of that variance that requires us to modify it is that the ZBA, approved that previous variance in accordance with the site plan that they had in front of them. And so this evening, what we're going to be asking for, hopefully, is an approval, and that approval conditioned upon the Zoning Board of Appeals ultimately granting the variance for the additional height, which we believe won't be an issue. Why we're asking for the approval instead of waiting is I don't want to get into a leapfrog or a chicken and the egg where you don't approve tonight, we appear in front of the ZBA, they approve, they condition it on that site plan being approved, and then we're back in front of you, and then something changes, and then that site plan changes, and then I've got to go back to the ZBA. And so we'd request, if you find everything else satisfactory, we'd ask that you approve us this evening. So that's a little bit of where we are, where we've been, and where we hope to go to. And so with that, let me share my screen, and then we can talk through some of those changes. If I misspeak at all, by all means, please hop in. Here you should be able to see my screen, which is rendering of the elevation from the east. So this is the easterly side. University Drive is at the bottom. Amity Street is at the top. We will get into a little bit more detail on some of those changes, but you can see just from first blush, we've changed the material on this corner to be the brick that is on the adjacent the adjacent panels here. So we've got brick here, that metal siding, and then brick here. You'll see that, and we'll again get a close up, but you'll see that we've modified the materials on this interior or exterior courtyard. And we've got some other seating here. I'll scroll down so you can see, and I'll zoom in just a little bit. So you'll see campus view is shown here. That's the signage proposed for the project. It will be likely backlit because we think that's probably the classiest for something like this. I'll scroll down a little so you can see, and I'll zoom in. So you can see the screening proposed. So the electric meter bank and the transformer are located in this general area. And so we've got some screening, some vegetative screening. I know that Eversource is sensitive about proximity and obstructions. And so we've designed this, and I'd say Jonathan has designed this based upon what he's learned over at 4555 South Pleasant Street for proximity and clearance and all of that. So this is, I'd show you if I could take the trees down, but where that electric bank is going to be. And then, as I promised, here's some close-ups of what those exterior spaces. We do want to be careful, programming them, because we don't have commercial tenants yet. We've been talking to several, but we don't have any of them signed up with leases yet. So that's just to say, these are conceptual. We've added some vegetation on each side. The back of this campus view, as you'll see here, the signage is actually a whole level of seating. And then we've got some chairs and tables proposed for out in that area. And then we've carried some of that brick through to tie in with the building. As we get to the site plan, one of the requests was to have a sidewalk connection here. We think that the way that it's currently routed, after talking to the town engineer, makes the most sense. And so we've left it that way. I'll show the rear plaza. I'll call it the inside of the elbow. Again, just picking up some different textures, adding some, here with a brick, and then adding some seating and some bike racks. I'll go to the first floor plan and then just zoom in a little bit. We've added interior bike storage. So one of the comments that we heard last time was, exterior storage is good, interior storage is better. And so we've got that interior bike storage here. This is likely to be key fob entry. Nate had asked the question whether or not we'd be doing exit only, but I think this is probably key fob entry. There will be a division similar to U Drive South or One University Drive, where the key fobs access only the residential space. So once folks are in, if you have a key fob, you can go into the residential space. If you don't have a key fob, you can't go into the residential space. There'll be a system where folks can actually buzz down and let their guests in if needed, but it's just to separate the commercial from the residential. Interior trash room, same as One University Drive South, which keeps the parking lot quite a bit cleaner than if you've got exterior trash storage. Same office, retail space breakout as we've had before. I'll scroll down. Fitness center on that second floor. Community space here in the corner. Again, community space. And then fifth floor, we've added dividers and exterior space to some of the units. So this one will have an exterior space, that will have an exterior space. This is not exterior space. The exterior space is here. We don't have exterior space in the front. So some of the fifth floor units do have exterior decks, but others do not. Again, maybe I'll go down to this one. So here you've got brick, color, signage, metal paneling, spec. And we've got that cut through view so you can see the building, the step back, what we've got for rooftop mechanicals and their screening. It will be that metal screening, but it'll look more like a fence than anything else. Jonathan, anything else we want to hit on with the architecturals?
Can you hear me? That's why I was having video and audio problems a while ago. But can folks hear me?
Yes.
Great. Tom, if you scroll down just a little bit to brick colors, we have been showing two colors of masonry, the traditional red brick, a tan brick. What's new here is the gray tone that we're putting to coordinate with the metal siding. And now if you scroll back up to the elevations, one of the things that Barry and I sat down with Gail in his office and we were looking at the elevations, one thing we thought would be nice would be to bring, Tom, if you could scroll up to the elevations, would either simply have a masonry base all the way around the building. So we have added that third tone of brick in as a accent at the base of the building, kind of under the areas that are shown as light gray. That darker gray would be that third tone of masonry.
And is
And
that
So
the
metal siding here,
too?
brick,
That's
brick, and then brick.
review that masonry comes all the way down to the ground now. I think that's up a little bit higher on that page, Tom. There you go.
So the corner is the yellowy brick?
This is the tan yellowy brick, correct?
Oh, okay. It didn't read that way on the rendering. Looked pretty gray. But
Yeah, can you go back to those just so we can look at them again?
okay, well,
You know, it's difficult to get a perfect match between screens and printing and you know materials, but that's the intended range of the palette.
okay. All right. So I'm trying to remember the last time we approved a site plan. Was that when you had two separate buildings?
And when you say approved, do you mean
Well,
reviewed?
the site plan you are presenting tonight, you are asking for approval because it has changed
You've never approved it for us
at all. Okay.
at all.
Zoning is something we're returning for a new approval.
Okay. All right. So Nate, are you available to speak for a moment? I guess we've been advised that we would be better off not approving the plans tonight, and that if we did it March 19th, that we would be on firmer ground. And that's approximately a week after your visit with the ZBA. So I just wanted to say that at the outset of this conversation. Board members, comments, other than that you've seen enough of Tom and Barry in the last 6 months. Anybody have any comments? Do they like what they've done with the building? Bruce?
Yes, I mean, I've reviewed the documentation that was put in the packet and so forth, so I've seen, but one of the things I hadn't perhaps noticed before, but it makes sense. I think I'm seeing 2 elevators, and I imagine that whereas, yeah, there are 2 elevators and not just one.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay, well, that's, I do have something at the appropriate time about affordable housings and the affordable units and the distribution of them. I know that the development application report suggested that we look at that somewhat more critically, and I'm not disposed to agree with what the development report says. So at the appropriate time, Doug, you could call on me to make my case. I think otherwise, and I found the lighting plan. I know that last time you were here, Tom, we looked at the lighting plan, but no, we didn't. We looked at the light fixtures, and I was trying to get a sense of where some of these fixtures were going. And then very quickly, but not during that meeting, but a day or 2 afterwards, a lighting plan was distributed, and I opened it up, and it's difficult to understand, not because it's small, because you can make it bigger, but when you make it bigger, the text is overlaying, particularly in places around the building, and it's still not really possible to get a clear sense of which fixtures are where. And I also couldn't quite locate some of those fixtures as on the lighting fixture schedule. I couldn't make a clear connection between the submittal package of fixtures and which what the reference number for those fixtures. I would like the submittal package to have the fixture A1 or B1 or whatever it is, so that we can quickly go from that fixture to the lighting plan. I mean, I don't suppose I mind going through the fixture schedule, but the fixture schedule has to be able to make reasonable connection to the submittal package, and I wasn't able to make that connection. So the lighting arrangement in terms of the fixtures and so forth is still Greek to me. Although I did look at the illuminations and so forth, and generally speaking, I think I understand that you've got at least enough lighting. It does spill a little bit into the wetlands. I don't know whether the Conservation Commission care about that. Can I ask whether they saw the lighting plan and appreciated there was a little bit of spillover?
It would have been part of our packet. I don't know that they even paid attention to the existence of spillover into the wetlands. I don't know that would have been any factor in their decision. I'm looking and seeing, because I'm looking at the lighting plan now, I don't know that, save for a portion of the wetlands proximate to Amity Street, which is probably already going to be illuminated because of street lighting. I don't know that there is any light spillage into the wetlands proper. It might be into the buffer zone of the wetlands, but I don't know that it's into the wetlands itself. And
And I don't know whether that's a problem. I was really asking whether anybody knows whether that's, I mean, you can see that we've got 1 and 2 foot candles going, a few bullets into the wetland, and it's a little bit the same on the other side. There's some of those big lights are right next, but I take your point that it's filling into the buffer zone. So my guess is, without really knowing, what wildlife think about this sort of stuff, that it's probably fine. And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. But I would like to be able to understand where the fixture package submittals occur on the plan.
Sure. And so if I could, one of the things that we did was I put together, I'd call it maybe a relatively crude fixture document to show, right? So this is type A, this is the recessed, and I'll go back to the lighting plan and then show you. So there's 3 fixtures that we're proposing. That's it. A, which is the recessed.
Yeah.
B, which is the pole. This is what the pole will look like. It will vary in height between 12 feet or 18 feet, and I'll show you that on a plan.
Yep.
So any B is this, the B2, the B3, the B4 is just the LED configuration in this top hat here, right? So it's not like there are different B fixtures. The Bs are all these freestanding, and then you've got C, which is the wall sconce.
Okay, that's what I mean, I think I'm fine with it. It's just that I couldn't understand it easily, that's all. But this helps. I don't think you had type Cs, type Bs, and type As on the submittal pack that was put up in our
It should be the same fixture designations.
Yeah, and this was it was in the Dropbox link, or strike that, the OneDrive link. So I know I uploaded it last Tuesday, but you'll see just for completeness, right? So you got the A's here, which are those recessed A's, which are the recessed C, which are the sconces. A's are the recessed. The B's, as I said, those are the freestanding, here, 18 feet, 18 feet, 12 feet, 12 feet, 12 feet, 12 feet, 12 feet.
Oh, I see. And B goes all the way down to a bollard, which is just a low pole, right?
The B's, all the B's are those, let me go back to the.
But I see a couple of B1s in the elbow, which look like they're probably bollards, but
No, they're still taller. All of them are taller, right? So these are 18 feet. These B's are 18 feet. These are 12 feet. And I'll even go.
It's not going to be a problem for the first floor residents.
And that's where the LED configuration varies, Bruce. They've got, some of them have, and it's been a week since I talked to them in person, but it basically has a color. And so that it shines away.
You've thought about it. You've thought about it, is what you're saying.
Yes. We've tried to think about it.
That's probably good enough for me.
Anything? So Bruce,
I think I'm done. Sorry.
Are you asking for an additional submittal? I mean, from what I've seen,
I think at the moment I know enough. I didn't realize there was that these basically we've got 3 lighting fixtures, and these are the variations, and the photometric variations are there. Some of them are quite tight and everything, but whereas I have to determine where my curiosity becomes irrelevant to the review, the rational review of this stuff. And I think my curiosity doesn't have to be satisfied any more than it currently is. So no, I don't think I am asking for anything further than what we've seen.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Jesse,
Thanks. Thanks, Tom, for the presentation. Just mostly a comment just to say, I think it reflects our conversation last time. I like the improvements. One minor question about access. I didn't quite catch what you're saying about key fob entry on the first floor plan. Really, I'm just wondering about that corner location, if that's the newest hot restaurant in town, for example, and someone parks in the back. Are they able to go through the first floor or they're walking all the way around? I just didn't catch what you said.
Yes, they would be able to go through the first floor.
Yep.
Gotcha. So
It's
that's the key fob. Okay.
correct. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Thanks. That's it.
all right. Other board members, any other comments? Karen,
Yeah, the commercial space, how, now, if there's a shop on the bottom that I want to visit, would I be parking behind the building and entering from the back? Or how, I'm trying to picture this commercial space, how that's working.
So you'll see, we've got, space here, a lobby here, and so there's parking spaces here. Entering through this lobby into this space, entering through this lobby into this space. You've got entry here, and then entry here and entry here. So I mean, you can also come in through this front door as well. Or directly into the space. Like you can see that there's direct access from the easterly side also. So, I think we tried to consider both vehicular, pedestrian, bus traffic, folks who are just, take the bus, walk, need to get into, one of the stores, they can just walk in the front, or if it's vehicular, come around the back and come in that way.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Yeah, it's a little, it's true. It's kind of tricky because you have the pedestrian and then you have the people that are coming by cars. And so you're essentially going to have to lure them in from two sides. Yeah.
Yep.
A little tricky.
And it'll somewhat depend on what the individual tenants are. Some will have more foot traffic. Some will have more car traffic, depending on who is actually interested in the spaces.
all right. Karen, are you all set?
I'm all set.
All right, thank you. Bruce,
Tom, John, can you run us through the trash pickup a little? The trash is nicely stored in the building. There's probably a trash chute, is there somewhere?
Yeah.
I guess.
This trash chute is still in design. I'll say, Bruce, we discussed it with Barry. We're going to try to work something out, but we didn't have time to connect our five floors yet with a shaft. But that's the hopeful intent, that there might be a trash chute. And then a couple times a week, probably, given the volume of people here, they would someone would wheel the bins out, and that there's no, it's a flush curb at that point, and at 6 or 7 in the morning, whatever the time is, the trash gets picked up before the start of the work day.
So the trash is going to be picked up right in the
turnaround loop.
In the busy part. So I guess you've thought about this. You might say to yourself, well, it would be nice if we could put it less to the center. But if you put it less to the center, then the trash is less convenient for the people on the upper floors in order to get to it, to put it down. So I guess I'm looking at a classic design choice between convenience at one level and disruption at another. So, but anyway, I can see. So the trash truck has to come in and probably make a loop around that in a parking area and stop there and pick up and so forth. Okay, just needed to know what you were intending.
It's a similar pattern to what Barry has happened at one.
One University Drive.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It's hard to understand you, Jonathan, much more than, I mean, I see you on quite a few Zooms these days, and you're in a different place or something, because I've never not been able to
This is
understand what you're
true.
saying.
I was trying to get away from the sounds of my children in the background, and I'm going to have to buy a new camera and mic, I think.
Okay.
All set,
I
Bruce?
don't have anything else now.
All right, Karen?
So from the picture, I'm also trying to understand the sidewalk, the 10-foot sidewalk. Is that right smack next to the road? There's no strip between it? I was trying to see that on the,
So this is the existing where if you can follow my cursor, that's the existing. This here, this wider one, that's the proposed 10-foot wide. So a little landing here.
And
I don't think we're on the same page. Are we?
yeah, the
Oh, yeah,
curb,
yeah, okay, sorry, yep, I see it.
And maybe I'll go back up so you can see. This is probably a better representation. See how you've got the sidewalk that exists, and then internal to that interior to the site, you've got this wider one, and then kind of pull-offs for each of those different commercial spaces.
Okay, great. Good, nice.
Bruce, it's your
I
turn.
just wanted to, thanks, Doug. Not so much me, although I would join in, but I wasn't the person who talked about it. But I think it might have been you, Doug, or it might have been Johanna or maybe Lawrence. I'm not sure. But there was some conversation about the that front area, the nose at the very point of the building, and the landscaping and the finish and so forth. And as Tom said when he was reintroducing that they've made they've adjusted that, and I guess I'm curious to whether the members of the board who were interested or concerned that it wasn't perhaps as salubrious as it might have been, do we agree that it's feels good now?
Jesse,
I think I raised that point. And yeah, I think it's a pretty good adjustment. My main comment was that it was not porous in the first iteration, and now it looks like that's brick, and which could be. And I totally understand your comment that you don't know who's in there yet, so you don't want to be too prescriptive. That makes sense to me. So yeah, I think it's a good improvement.
yeah, and I had also commented about the facade at that corner. This is the rendering where I didn't read it as being yellow brick. It looks pretty gray to me, but I'll take your word for it that it's yellow. And I think it looks better, and the plaza looks good. Karen,
Yeah, I want to thank you for using brick and making such an effort to make the outside look attractive in New England and contemporary. So thank you.
all right. Bruce?
This is probably a good view to raise the question about the screening on the top of the building and whether it's solid or whether it's semi-transparent or what have you. I think that was in the development report, or maybe the proposed conditions, but I think there was it was in the development report. That's right. It was issues to be considered and a question to be raised, or a question that the staff thought we might want to raise was how do we think about this screening? And I think it was related to that top, what looks like about a 5-foot screen that's set back. And I thought at this point, since it'll come up, just tell us what it is and describe how you're how you're treating it.
It's out of the same or similar metal siding. Most of the companies that make the metal siding products also make it in a slightly perforated one. Bruce, can you hear me?
If Tom knows the answer,
Yeah,
it would be
well,
easier for
I'll
Tom to
answer. So it's the same or similar to what's going to be the metal siding, and it's going to be like a fence, so a solid fence without the slats or the spaces.
Okay. Thank you. I'll get my hand down.
All right. Let me go to the public. Any comments from the public at this hearing about this project? Not seeing any hands raised. Board members, does anybody have any objections to where this design is? And are we basically in support of the site plan review? All right, I'm seeing.
I'm ready to move on.
I'm sorry, Bruce.
I think I'm ready to move on.
Okay.
I mean, move on to reviewing findings and draft
Right,
conditions.
right. Well, good. Then why don't we do that? Nate, are you able to take us through the findings and conditions?
I will be able to in about 5 minutes, and I could do it now. I wouldn't be able to share my screen.
Okay. Well, let's see. What could we do for 5 minutes?
We could start. If someone else could share the screen, we can walk through them. I think we start with findings if
Do you
we
have the findings and conditions available to share?
We should. Mhm.
Good.
And Doug, if you wish, I'm prepared to read them because I know
Yeah.
Chris or Nate used to do that.
Actually, that reminds me, Bruce, you wanted to talk about the affordable units?
It comes up in the draft conditions. There's 2 pages of it, but there's okay. There's one that I found a little perplexing and actually concerning, and it was the suggested condition that would have at least it would have one of the affordable units on the upper floor having a deck or a kind of a porch
outdoor.
access.
Mhm.
And relevant to the section in Article 15. And I went and read through Article 15 a bit and found out where I think it would probably, where we might conclude that that was appropriate. But it seems to me that whereas Article 15, and I think the intent here is that we want to make the affordable units comparable, is the word that's used, to the other, say, the market rate units. And it seemed to me that since there are only 4 units that have got a landing space, and that's a kind of a premium feature, it seemed to me unreasonable to ask the applicant to make one of those 4 available to an affordable unit, because I would think the argument would be one of the ways in which we can afford to make units affordable is by having the market capacity to get a premium for these 4 units, and that's going to help create affordability. And I don't think it's reasonable to say that in the quest of comparability, that one of the affordable units should also have a deck access, because to be comparable to the other units in the development, all the other 74 of them, which don't have deck access, I think that's where we are finding comparability, and that some of the units are different and special, and this is appropriate, I think, because that's how we afford to create this level of affordability, because the market rates are underwriting them. So I take issue with the proposition that that should be a condition.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nate, did you have any thoughts about that?
I mean, the board can find that that's okay. I think, in speaking with the building commissioner, he said, well, what, if market rate units have certain amenities, then, proportionally the affordable unit should have them. So, even if it was only a few that have the deck, then, a minimum of 1 affordable could have a deck. Same thing if they had ground level patios or, something else. And so, but the board can find otherwise. Similarly, the 3 and 4 bedroom units, the board might find that 3 bedroom units are sufficient. You don't have to have 4 bedroom affordable units, and you can just make that a part of the conditions and findings. But I just wanted to raise it as part of discussion.
Okay, all right. All right, Nate, we will continue with Pam's screen until you're at a position where you can share your screen.
Yep.
Pam, why don't you scroll up just a little bit? And Bruce, I think you volunteered to read these, at
Yes.
least to start, and we
I
can
will.
trade off.
I think I can do that from here. The board found under section 11.24 of the zoning bylaw, site plan review as follows. 11.2400. The project is in conformance with all appropriate provisions of the zoning bylaw, with the exception of the variance required for dimensional regulations to allow for a 59-foot building height. The Zoning Board of Appeals granted a variance on March 7, 2024 to reduce the additional lot area per unit from 4,000 square feet to 2,500. The 160 parking spaces proposed for this project, rather than the 193 spaces required by the zoning bylaw 700 and 7.004, are adequate to meet the demand of the project, as it is in close proximity to the public transport and the shared use path. The project advances many goals of the master plan by concentrating housing and mixed-use development in an area that is close to services and transportation options. So that's 11.240.
So there were two sort of typos that Bruce stumbled on there, Pam. The first one was in the after the 7000 and 004.
Mhm.
Is should be an R, A-R-E. And
Okay.
and there's probably and then at the
And
end of that same line,
as
as
the
the
project
project-
is in close proximity, is adequate
As the
to meet the
project
demand as the
is-
project.
Okay, so
I think
that's
I
okay.
stumbled in reading. I don't think
I see.
that's a stumble in text.
That's fine.
In writing. 11.24.
Well, if I could, just one more, 59.5 feet.
Oh,
And that second line
mhm.
is 59 feet. We need 59.5.
right.
well,
Thank you.
that was rather important. Thank you, Tom. 11.2401. Town amenities and abutting properties will be protected because detrimental or offensive actions are not planned for this site. 11.2402. Abutting properties will be protected from detrimental site characteristics resulting from the proposed use. Lighting will be downcast and will not shine onto adjacent properties. Stormwater management will be improved from the existing conditions, and there are no visually offensive features.
Okay, Pam, can
Right.
you scroll up a little bit? Great.
Hold on. We're at
11.2403.
3, okay. Adequate recreational facilities, open space and amenities will be provided because there will be recreational spaces within the building. There are outdoor space plazas, and there is multi-use. There is a multi-use path along University Drive that connects to the Nonotuck Rail Trail.
Rail trail.
Thank you. 11.2410, not applicable. Do I need to go further than not applicable? I suppose I should. There are no unique or important natural, historic, or scenic features on the site. The parcels that have been previously developed, and none of the existing buildings, actually that should be is historic by my standard. I know the New Yorker and half the publications of the Planet don't agree with me, but it should be none is historic. 11.2411. Proposed methods of refuse disposal are described in the management plan. They are considered to be adequate. Solid waste materials shall be stored inside the building and transported off the site. There are no dumpsters proposed. 11.2412. The ability of the proposed sewage disposal and water supply systems to serve the proposed site is considered to be adequate. The property is connected to town sewer and water systems via connections on Amity Street. 11.24.
Whoops.
Three,
Hold on,
I
I
think.
went just a little too far, Bruce. Sorry about
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right
good.
there.
The ability of the proposed drainage system within and adjacent to the site to handle any increased runoff resulting from the development is considered to be adequate. A previous iteration of the project was approved by the Conservation Commission. 11.2414, provision of adequate landscaping is satisfactory. The landscape plan submitted includes landscape buffers along the street frontage and a landscape island in the parking lot, and natural vegetation in the wetland will be restored with native plantings. I guess, by the way, if anybody thinks that what I'm reading is not correct or not satisfactory, we should say so. I'll interrupt myself if I think that's true, but so far I'm good.
Yep,
Bruce?
I haven't
Bruce?
seen any hands go up. Well, hold on. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Real quick, correcting, or I don't know if it's a correction, but the previous item, I think the Conservation Commission has reviewed this version of the project and approved it, not one of the previous ones. Is that correct, Tom?
That is correct.
Oh, that would be
Okay.
good to say too. Okay.
Yep.
I got it.
Good.
So
Okay.
we got that.
11.2415, the erosion control plan will be reviewed by the Conservation Commission?
Has
I
been
think-
reviewed and approved.
That's bad.
Has been reviewed and approved by the Conservation Commission.
Okay, hold on.
So these are the findings and conditions that we will most likely approve on the 19th of March. So they should be written such that Conservation Commission is finished.
You're breaking my heart, Doug.
What's that?
I said, you're breaking my heart, Doug.
I know.
Approved.
No.
Okay,
Actually, that's wrong because the ZBA is the group that has yet to go.
right,
You are finished with conservation, right?
Correct. Yes.
correct.
All right, so I'm incorrect
Okay.
there.
11, whoop, not too, that's good enough. Well, good. 11.2416, adjacent properties will be protected from the intrusion of various types of nuisances, including air and water pollution, flood, noise, odor, dust, vibration through appropriate site and structure design, and the use of appropriate design and materials for containment, ventilation, filtering, screening, soundproofing, sound dampening, and other similar solutions. The use of the property mixed use in retail is not expected to produce air and water pollution. The storm drainage system has been designed to prevent flooding. Noise within the building will be contained by the building's outer walls and windows. Noise from within the site will be contained by the 5-story building sections. Odor is not expected to be produced in the new building. Dust and vibration will not be produced by the finished building and will be controlled during construction by requirements of the construction logistics plan. 11.2417. Protection of adjacent properties by minimizing intrusion of lighting has been determined to be satisfactory. A lighting plan and photometric plan have been permitted, and all exterior lighting is shown to be downcast and the dark sky compliant. Cut sheets have been provided for all fixtures and are considered to be satisfactory.
All right,
Okay,
can you
I'm good
scroll
with
up?
that. 11.2418. There is a small stream that runs through the southern portion of the site that is in the FPC zoning district. This stream is governed by section 3.22 of the zoning bylaw. The stream has a 25-foot jurisdictional area from the top bank. This small FPC zoning district is contained in a larger wetland area that was part of the Conservation Commission approval. Delete the word previous,
Yeah.
I assume. The conservation, so
Don't we want to just delete this sentence, this last one? The commission will review that.
yes, I believe we
I
do.
think that just goes away.
Pam, you good?
Got it.
Okay. 11.2419, a notice of intent was filed with the Conservation Commission, and an order of conditions was issued by the commission at their meeting December 4, 2024 is, okay, I'm going to keep reading and see what we get to here. For a previous iteration of the project, while the revised plans were reviewed by the Conservation Commission on March 12th, sorry, on February 12th, 2025, and we probably should say, and were.
I think you can just go
Correct.
back, if I may, to after an order of conditions was issued by the commission at their February 12th, 2025 hearing, or
Yeah.
on February 12th. You can eliminate the whole second part. So where it says December 4th, 2024, that should be February 12th, 2025.
Yeah,
2025 meeting, period.
Perfect.
Okay, and then get rid of everything else.
Yes.
Okay, so it will just read as this: a notice of intent was filed with the Conservation Commission and an order of conditions was issued by the commission at their 2/12/2025 meeting.
Yes.
That's it. Okay,
yes.
thank you. Thank you much.
11/24/20. The site is located in the BL district. However, the project is not located in the National Historic Register district, and the proposal is not likely to have significant impact on its surroundings, as the design is in keeping with the density and use of the area. Therefore, the design principles and standards in section 3.2040 and 3.2401 were not applied to the project. 11.2421. The development is reasonably consistent with respect to setbacks, placement of parking, landscaping, and entrances and exits with surrounding buildings and development. Parking will be provided behind the building in an open lot. One two-way driveway on Amity Street will be retained for the access, and a new two-way drive is proposed on University Drive. 11.2422. The building site avoids, to the extent feasible, impact on steep slopes, floodplains, scenic views, grade changes, and wetlands. 11.2423. Not applicable. There is one building proposed for this site. 11.2424. Screening is proposed for electric meters near the Amity Street entrance and for mechanical features on the roof. I think we saw both of those. 11.2430. The site has been designed to provide for the convenience and safety of pedestrians, and there's a little bit of it. You got it?
Got it.
Vehicular movement, both within the site and in relation to adjoining ways and properties. There will be vehicular access onto the property from two driveways. Internal drive aisles will be 24 feet wide for two-way traffic. A sidewalk with crossings is proposed to bring pedestrians safely from the parking into the building. There are direct pedestrian connections to the sidewalk on the front of the building.
Okay, scroll down.
11.2431, we're getting there. The location and number of curb cuts is designed to minimize the turning movements and hazardous exits and entrances, crosswalks, hazardous exits and entrances. Crosswalks are provided between the buildings and across curb cuts. 11.2432. The location and design of parking spaces, bicycle racks, and drive aisles are provided in a safe and convenient manner. Bike racks will be provided at plazas and entryways into the building, and accessible parking spaces are provided on sidewalks near entrances. Do we want to make any reference to the covered biking in the building, which I believe was a later addition?
Well, we will be approving the plans as submitted, which include the.
Yeah, it's a finding, that's all. I just wonder, we could find that because it's now available to be found. Moving on, 11.2433, not applicable. 11.2434, not applicable. No commercial or business property is located across University Drive or Amity Street from the site. 11.24.
What does that mean?
I think it's relative to that particular. I don't know. We
there
don't.
is commercial property across University Drive.
Oh, of course, I was thinking, yes,
Mhm.
okay. Nate, do you want to
Okay.
comment on this?
I'm happy if, before Nate jumps in, I can just tell you, it says 11.2434 is where possible, driveways located in commercial and business districts shall be located opposite each other. So 11.2434, I think it's talking about driveways. And I think the
Okay.
point is that there aren't any commercial or other business
Okay, so-
driveways located
Yeah,
across.
so in that case, why don't we just say no driveways?
No commercial or business property
assuming
access
Commercial or
is
business
located
property
across.
are,
Yeah.
are present across the streets. Pam, does that make sense?
Hold on a second. So let's see, no commercial or business property access. Accesses are present across University Drive or Amity Street from the site. Is that what we're trying to say?
I think so.
Accesses?
Tom,
I-
does your southern or the only curb cut on University Drive, is that is that aligned with the exit coming out of the little mall across the way that has the hangar?
It's offset here.
So it's
So if you say-
offset, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and you don't probably even own that far south.
And if we do, there's wetlands there and circulation and so.
Right, okay.
We
Well,
say
So,
are
um,
present, or would we say are located? Are
So
Go ahead.
I think we can say it is, there are no commercial or business exits on Amity Street. And it is not feasible for the exit on University Drive to align with the nearest exit on the other side of the street.
Of University Drive.
You got to
Right.
say that again. Okay.
So
There are no commercial or business exits along Amity
on
Street.
Amity Street,
Okay.
and it is not feasible for the exit on University Drive to align with the opposite exit,
Okay.
period.
You drive to a line, period. Okay.
With the opposite exit.
With the opposite. Okay.
Actually, opposite should really be nearest, with the nearest exit, because it's not
With
opposite.
the nearest.
Tom, you're the wordsmith in the group, so
Not applicable.
I think you did great.
Do you want me to read what I have, or you want me to
sure,
just?
why don't you read it back to us?
Okay, I'm gonna give it my best here. There are no commercial or business exits on Amity Street. And it is not feasible for the exit on University Drive to align with the nearest exit. I think I missed something.
Well, you could say with the nearest exit on the opposite side of the street.
Yeah.
On the opposite side. That's what I missed, on the opposite side.
The finding is always to be read in relation to the context in which we have to make the finding in the zoning
Right.
bylaw. And what we did once before was we put that in italics in the findings, and then we made our findings in plain text. And we're missing the italicized versions of this, but it doesn't seem to matter because we know where to find them if we need them.
Okay.
And Pam, I need the last two.
Oh,
I stole
Where
your
did they-
screen, Pam, sorry.
so do I have to go back and share it again? Here we go.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right, sorry about that. And that's okay, Tom, I don't mind. Okay, there you go, Mr. Coldham.
All right.
Okay, I think we're at
More.
11.2, 11.2435, which is not applicable. 11.2436, a traffic impact assessment prepared by Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., dated May 15, 2024, was submitted. I'm assuming Tom and others will correct if that date is wrong. I assume it's correct. Was submitted with the site plan review applications. The project is not anticipated to have significant impacts to traffic operations. And finally, 11.2337, given the results of the traffic impact assessment, the requirement for a traffic impact report as described in section 11.2437 of the zoning bylaw will be waived.
Yes.
Will be waived. Can be waived.
Is waived.
Yeah.
Is,
I mean,
This is a finding.
we're-
This
Yeah,
is a
we're
finding.
finding that it can be waived, right?
Yeah.
And then
waived.
the conditions waive it. Whatever. I think that is it.
Wait, so now I'm not clear. Is it gonna change to is waived?
I would think it should say can be waived, but
Can
I'm
be,
only one out of
okay.
7 here.
Can be.
Nate,
Nate is back. I saw him.
do the conditions refer to the waiver of the traffic impact report?
Well, the way the the zoning bylaw is written, it says a traffic impact report is required if the proposed development does, 4 things. And so we could say that given the results of the traffic impact assessment, there is no requirement to submit a traffic impact report. As opposed to saying waive, you say there is no requirement.
Can
To
be
submit the
waived
traffic.
is perfect then.
So you could say, given the results of the traffic impact assessment, a traffic impact report as described, yada, yada, is not required.
Right.
So remove the words, the requirement for, from the first line. And at the end of the second line, we remove the words will be waived and replace it with is not required.
Okay.
Fred, I see your hand.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest is being waived.
I know. This is a finding. We're not finding that it's being waived. We're finding that it is unnecessary.
And we're saying the report is not required. That seems pretty straightforward.
I agree.
All right, Bruce, thank you for reading. Now we'll go to the conditions. Nate, do you want to take over the screen or do you want to keep Pam at the ready?
No, I can.
If you have the Word document,
I
then we
do.
can edit right on the Word document. This is PDF.
I have.
Right.
Is that
Okay.
visible for everyone?
Yes.
Works for me. And do you want to read it or do you want one of us to read?
So I think first we have the waivers, and then we have the conditions. And so some of these waivers may or may not. Kind of like the development application report and the findings. This was written before some of the revisions. So there are a few waivers here. The number of parking spaces required for residential uses. 7.004, number of parking spaces required for retail, office, or similar uses. 7.10, design standards for parking spaces. 7.11, landscape standards. And then section 8.321, size of a monument sign in the BL zoning district. And so I'll explain the last one. Essentially that whole curved wall out front could be considered part of the sign. it has, raised lettering on it now. And so, in speaking with the building commissioner, really, we're not gonna say, well, it's just the size of the lettering. Typically, there's a backing to the sign. And so it's easier to say that that whole curved wall could be considered part of the sign display as opposed to, some portion of it around the lettering, right? And this has been done before where they have a similar sign on a wall.
So do we need to add the traffic report to this list?
I think the way the finding was written is not required now. It's not a waiver.
Okay, all right, good.
I've got 3 more based on the development application report. 7.103, which is parking closer than 8 feet from a building.
It's closer than 8 feet to a building, right?
To a building, yeah, exactly. 7104. Allow compact spaces for up to 50% of standard parking spaces. So allow compact spaces for up to 50% of standard parking spaces. And then 7.200. Allow shared parking between peak parking needs generated by on-site uses occurring at different times. I think that does it. Thank you.
Okay. Any comments from anybody at the board here about all these waivers? Don't see any hands. Go ahead, Nate. Let's go down.
Sure. So in the conditions, the things that are bold and italics are somewhat tailored to this project or application, and the rest are standards. I don't know if we want to, Bruce had asked that there'd be some way to tell, just so if we don't want to read all the conditions, it's up to the board now. Doug, I don't know if I should start with 1 or just read the number 3.
Well, I guess, I think if you want to just kind of give a brief mention of the ones that are not italicized, and then read the ones that are bold as they are specifically written.
Sure. So 1 and 2, the development should be managed or designed in accordance with the plans that are submitted and approved on whatever date. Number 3, there shall be an on-site manager who resides as a full-time resident in one of the units and shall be available during normal business hours and available as one of the emergency contacts outside of normal business hours. And so,
Tom, do you find that that's an easy thing to do, to have somebody who lives on site? Or is the workforce that typically would be an on-site manager is it hard to find somebody who's willing to live there?
A great question, Barry. I'm going to ask you to chime in, but I think it was a discussion between Barry and Gail, who said, we want to have an on-site resident manager here. So not only does Barry manage it, but I think for a project like this, given the commercial uses and the number of residential units, the number of bedrooms, I think it makes sense. Barry, is that fair to say?
Yes, I think Gail and I decided that this project is big enough and should have the attention of somebody there full-time, which will probably perform some janitorial services as well as being available for nighttime calls, weekend calls, all that. We are also always available, Gail and I, but I think to answer your question, Doug, it's going to depend. We're going to have to probably comp an apartment for them and pay them a little besides that. So, but we really think it's important in this side project.
Okay, all right.
So we think that condition's workable then, Tom and Barry?
I think so.
Yep. Number 4 is, any substantial changes would come back to the board for review.
Yep.
5, we say landscaping shall be installed in accordance with the plans. What's added here and what I think actually should be added to actually every condition become standard is a minimum height at time of planting. And so, not necessarily what happens at this plan, but we've seen, someone will say, well, we're planting this type of shrub for screening, and they plant it and it's, 9 inches, and it'll take, 20 years before it actually gets to 3 feet or something. And so I'm saying the minimum height of any shrub at time of planting shall be 3 feet, as this is needed for screening. And so we could change that, but I do think it's important to start having a minimum height.
All right, Nate, I see Bruce has got his hand up.
Yeah, I was wanting to, it says as this is needed for screening. Shouldn't it say if this is needed for screening? Because there'll be plantings that are not needed for screening, that don't have to be 3 feet high.
All right.
And I guess maybe I'd have just one comment on that. If you look at, and I can bring it up, the landscape plan. So we've had a landscape architect actually look at it. There are a whole host of different minimum measurements. And so it's like, 2 to 3 foot height. It's like 1 inch caliper. It's, depending upon what is being planted. And so our request would be, and I mean, I can bring it up so you can see like the sheer number of plantings that are going to occur here. And I don't know outside of the electrical meters, I don't know how much screening is actually needed for this project. So I would just, we may be back here at another project and we say, oh my gosh, we need higher, plants. For this, I would suggest that we rely on what's spec'd in the landscape plan. Unless you want to have some additional piece for the electric meters.
So we're really just talking about the planting that serves as screening with this sentence. And it's really just at the electric meters, right?
If everybody agrees, that's all I can think of for actual screening.
Yeah.
If that's what the intent is, you've got zero problem.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, for instance, people will say, oh, we're going to put plantings at the edge of a parking lot. And they go and they install, like I said, like, a 12 to 15 inch tall evergreen shrub that won't even block headlights for 5 years. And so, for here, it might just be the electrical meters.
Yeah, well, why don't we just say the shrubs that provide screening at the electrical meters shall be at least 3 feet tall when installed?
Well, this captures something else if it's not, say there is, we can look at if there's anything else that needs to be screened.
Okay, well, then the minimum height of any shrub serving a screening function shall be at least 3 feet tall.
Can I ask just like a practical implementation? Who's making that decision? How is their predictability, et cetera?
Yeah, so this becomes an enforceable condition that the inspectors would use, right? And so, it'd be that if they go in there and they, you can, although it says 2 to 3 feet, Tom, I get what you're saying. I'd say, well, you can select, say, 3 feet, and like a 1.5 inch caliper tree is different than saying a 2 foot shrub, because a 1.5 inch caliper tree has a height, say, of 8 to 10 feet or something. It's a certain size. Oftentimes, we'll approve shrubs or understory plantings without anything. And like I said, someone could come in and plant a wisp, right, and not actually plant anything more than what is shown. So if we, this is saying at time of planting, it shall be 3 feet. I mean, we can delete it if we think the planting plan here is sufficient enough, right? Their landscape plan has the heights, if we think that's good. Like I said, I think this should actually become kind of a standard part of the condition, just so we're, we make sure that anything that's supposed to be used for screening has an adequate height at time of planting.
Nate, my editor self would really like to have the screening closer to the word shrub. So I would like the minimum height of any shrub,
right,
providing a screening function to be at least 3 feet tall at the time of planting.
All right.
Period.
And Bruce, I see your hand is up still.
Yep, Bruce?
I think I was just going to say that we could rely on the planting plan for this. That's logical. But I noticed that repeatedly through these conditions, we are asking for all sorts of things, like that it has to comply with the Massachusetts Architectural Access Board and various other things. So I think, Nate, if you want this to kind of be a prompt and to kind of reside in these conditions and become more permanent, more general, then I think we should keep it as you've written it, and recognize that that in this case it's really only the
Electric meters.
the electric meters that need screening. I think that's correct, and so forth. So this isn't just another one of those redundant phrases, but it's not doing any harm, I don't think. Tom may
Unless it's
disagree.
And, it could be conflicting with the landscape plan, which we've, so if it does, I'd rather have,
Well, if it does, it's conflicting in the way we want it to be conflicted, right?
right. So maybe notwithstanding the heights stated on the landscape plan, then the minimum height shall be at least 3 feet, but.
Oh, I would just go with what you've got there. I think it's
Alright.
pretty clear that that's what we're trying to, and
I mean, the only thing I will say, there's a vault near the entry from University Drive that doesn't show any screening, and is that,
It's
I meant to ask-
underground. Sorry, Nate. I should have responded and I didn't. It's subsurface.
Yeah, okay.
Good catch though.
are we
Tom,
good with this?
Tom, do you object to this?
No, as long as, what we're hearing is electric meter, transformer, particularly make sure they're at least 3 feet. No problem.
Okay,
Thank you.
Fred?
Yeah, I would say, rather than to be, I would say shall be at least, because we're stating a condition.
Good point. Okay, Nate.
All right, the SPR, approval expires within 2 years. Any work, once it's started, shall be completed within 24 months. If they need to extend it, they can. We're requiring an A&R plan be submitted to combine the lots. And that happened before the issuance of a building permit. So, there's a few separate lots there now. Building exterior and site improvements. The town engineer and building commissioner inspect the construction of entry driveways and paved areas. All utility connections shall be underground. We say all exterior lighting shall be dark sky compliant and downcast. And then we added there shall be no uplighting of signs or landscape features. And so at one point it looked like there had been some uplighting, but I don't think there is now. Again, this could become a part of a standard condition. Fred, I see your hands raised.
Oh, yeah, Fred.
Yeah, the item 9, I think it should be for conformance to town standards.
Oh, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
got that. Thanks, Fred. Number 12, except as shown on the approved plans, any air conditioning units, communication devices shall be screened from view and noise muffled with fencing, plantings, or other suitable materials. So that's provided in the plans. Number 13, the bollard shown on the 10-foot walkway along University Drive shall be removable. Now, I don't know if that's the case. It didn't look like it on the construction details, but we can talk about it, and if we want to remove it, we can, or change the condition, but.
So I'll say they're not, but Barry, do you have any reason why they couldn't be removable? So, yeah, that's fine. If you want them removable, we can make them
Yeah.
removable.
Not a problem.
I'm just thinking for ease of any, say, snow plowing or something, or, if the town ends up doing some of that. So the exterior signs, I'm proposing to remove that. Because, you know, the
This is
further
the
ones.
waiver.
In the other one, there's other conditions that address that. So 15, the applicant shall provide to the planning board for review and approval at a public meeting, the final details and specifications for any amenities such as bike rack, site furniture, benches prior to installation. I think they've shown most of it, but maybe not some of it. So we have this condition actually in other permits. Number 16, the applicant shall provide to the planning board an updated parking agreement with Amherst Public House at 40 University Drive, detailing how the requirements of the special permit will be met going forward.
And I guess my only comment there would be something on the lines, Nate, of like, or that no agreement is required.
And what is prompting this, and what's the relationship to the Amherst Public House?
So 40 University Drive, Barry owns that as well. You may recall, like, it might have been like 2020, 2019, 2018, a restaurant, Savannah's, was going in there at the time. Folks were worried about the parking volume. And so the solution to that was really to like do valet parking. I don't think it was ever used. And that there's a parking agreement to allow folks to park across the street at 2535. Again, I don't know that it's been used. So what we have to do is just go through the ZBA to modify 40 University Drive, their special permit, to eliminate that agreement. And so that's what we haven't done that yet. But we're going to.
All right, do you have any objection to the way this is written?
My only comment would be, like I said, like if this anticipates there being an updated parking agreement, which there may be,
So you want to add or that, or
alternative
Or-
solution has been achieved, something like that.
reporting that no agreement is required?
Yep. As a practical matter, right? If nothing is required, then the planning department will already know, based upon going through the ZBA process.
Okay.
All right. 17, the applicant shall return to the planning board at a public meeting within 1 year after the final certificate of occupancy and present information about parking usage and demand, including adequacy of parking for non-residential spaces. The board may ask the applicant to return again after the non-residential spaces have been occupied. And so in the past, we've done this with some other projects where certain uses haven't been determined. Again, it's something the board can discuss now.
And so this is really just for our information to find out how things are working?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Building interior and use, the building shall meet all codes. The total number of dwelling units to be constructed shall be limited to 78 units, 1 studio, 5 1-beds, 1 bath, 30 2-bed, 1 bath, 9 3-bedroom and 2 bath, and 33 4-bedroom, 2 bath. The building shall not exceed 5 stories and 59.5 feet. And so 21 is, another one. The principal use shall remain remain a mixed-use building, and include a combination of dwelling units and a non-residential use occupying at least 30% of the first floor.
Number 19. So say they build the building and 5 years from now, it's clear the market for 4-bedroom units is not very good, and they want to split a unit in 2. Do we have to change these conditions?
Well, they'd come back and present it to the board and say, is that one, if it's 1 unit, is that a de minimis change? Or if they're changing all their 4 bedrooms, that might be sufficient enough that they have to amend their site plan, right? I mean, if they're going from, but it is 78 units and now they're adding, 16 more units.
But the site plan is not about the interior of the building.
Well, it's about the number of units, right? For a mixed use building and for site plan, it's, we have to know that there are a certain bedroom count or bedroom size and breakdown. So you you can't have more than 50% of one bedroom size.
Yeah, okay.
You know, I don't know if anyone else has any comments about that in terms of 19, you know, if we word the condition differently or.
Well, I mean, it seems sort of repetitive because we've approved
Yep.
the plans. So what's the point?
Yeah, the point here is, you know, a building, whatever is in conditions becomes enforceable and it's recorded. And it's, to me, it's easier to find, right? So we're not going to say, well, we refer to the plans and let's go try to find the unit breakdown on the plans. We refer to the conditions in the permit. And so
Okay.
what we want to have as conditions to be enforceable and to be used in the future, we'd have them as conditions. So
Okay.
22 and 23, you know, 22, the building shall meet all, as Bruce said, the Mass Architectural Access Board requirements. They shall be registered in terms of the residential rental property bylaw. 24.
And those are I mean, 22 is needed to make sure that the building inspector refers to MAB when he issues the building permit?
Right, or right, if there's ever any, if there's a complaint made and there's questions about it, we can refer to this permit or to what the inspectors find.
All right.
I
guess-
agree. It's this, I mean, this one's a little redundant. You know, the other one, you know, some of them maybe aren't, but you know, really that it has to meet these. So we say up above, it has to meet all other codes too here. I mean, if we wanted to,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
18 is somewhat, you know, redundant. 24, there shall be security measures in place such as key or fob access to the elevators and stairs so that only residents and not the general public have access to the residential spaces in the building.
Okay.
Commercial, retail, non-residential tenant spaces.
Doug, if I may, on that one, it says and not the general public. Does anybody want to be specific enough to say not the general public or tenants of the non-residential spaces? Or
I mean, we
just-
could delete the parenthetical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm asking whether because the general public, the tenants of the non-residential spaces may perhaps be considered not the general public, and I was thinking that because you probably want to have key access for the separately for the non-residential spaces as well. Am I getting too?
Well, if you remove the parenthetical, then you're just saying that only the residents have access to the residential spaces.
Oh, I see what you
But,
mean. Yes,
do the
yes.
re-
That's a
do
good
the,
idea.
Do the commercial tenants have access to that trash room that's inside the residential area?
You think you read my mind. Yeah, Barry, Jonathan, is that how is trash for non-residential spaces going to be handled? Will there be a separate entrance to the trash room?
Like, do they have to go outside and in the outside door to deposit their trash in the toters there?
Yes,
So, yeah.
they'll go through the outside doors and won't be able to go into the unit. Be a keypad inside the trash room to go into the residential, and they won't have the code for that.
So
key.
there's a keypad on both sides of that inner
Right.
door.
Correct.
So this, we could remove the parenthetical and just have it read the way it,
I agree.
All right. There,
yeah,
remove the
that's
bit.
good.
All right. Are we good with number 24?
Yeah,
25, any use, so for commercial or the non-residential spaces, any use authorized in the non-residential space at this project site shall be among the uses allowed by right or permitted by site plan review or by special permit in the limited business zoning district and shall be required to follow all appropriate permitting. And so that means if, something goes into one of the non-residential spaces, it could be administratively approved unless there are some changes that needs, some other application.
Okay,
Marketing lease agreement, any substantial modifications would come back.
okay,
Work within the right of way. Again, this is kind of standard language. Any repairs or improvements would be fixed, prior to the issuance of the final CO. All crosswalks, sidewalks, and amenities would be reconstructed to match existing, and all utility work shall follow regulations and permits of the town.
okay,
The management plan, we hit number 30. The management plan, including supplemental information submitted by the applicant, details parking management as follows. There shall be 160 parking spaces, 24 compact spaces. 120 spaces will be reserved to residents and 40 spaces will be available for non-residential uses and shared space for residents. Tenants will be required to register vehicles with property management in order to obtain a parking sticker. Spaces will be numbered and assigned to residents. And the commercial spaces shall be available from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
The only
Tom,
comment, I'd have there is the 120 spaces reserved and 40 spaces available. Just that whole, maybe a positive. I'd love to take that out and just, it was more of an example to say, here's what we will likely do. But I think it comes down to management. And if there's a commercial tenant that says, here's how many parking spaces we need, and we think that we can rent the residential spaces maybe with less because people don't have vehicles. Like, I just don't want to get tied into 120 and 40. So just that from the comma after the parenthetical spaces to the comma right before tenants, we would request that be removed. Yeah, exactly that. And then we're happy to register the vehicles. We're happy to have parking stickers. Barry, spaces numbered is fine. Yep, spaces numbered is fine. So all of that is okay.
all right, Jesse?
Yeah, I don't disagree at all. Didn't think our interests are aligned here. I mean, they want the right parking mix for the uses, so I think that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Nate, I guess
Sure.
it looks like we're not even halfway through, but are we through most of this before you get to the construction boilerplate?
Yeah, so management plan, the rest of this is, boilerplate. Snow would be removed, drainage structures kept clear of snow, trash pickup and everything during 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. except as, provided during emergencies. Move in, move out shall occur during 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and coordinated to, minimize impacts of multiple moving trucks. 36. Upon change of ownership or if the property is no longer managed by U-Drive Amity LLC, the new owner and or manager shall submit a new management plan to the planning board at a public meeting for its review and approval. The purpose of the meeting shall be for the board to determine whether conditions of the permit are being complied with and whether any modification to the site plan approval or management plan is required. All right, construction. 37, a demolition permit shall be issued before demolition takes place. Prior to the issuance of a building permit. This is 38, a pre-construction meeting shall be scheduled. There should be a written fire management plan before the issuance of a building permit, number 39. 40
we
was redundant. 40 was
Usually
redundant.
don't really need to go through all of these.
Yep. So we say the final construction logistics plan shall be provided at the pre-construction meeting and shall cover the following items. So I just say the word final. There was something submitted, but this all gets worked out after the permit. These are all pretty boilerplate all through here. If there's any questions about up through 50, those are things we always require. Completion of work, we're saying as-built plans, digital plans to the town. 55 would be new. Construction of the project shall comply with the requirements of the town engineer as listed in his letter of, so Jason provided a letter, the town engineer, in relationship to the variance that noted a number of things. It was relevant to the site plan review, so we can include that here.
Mhm. Bruce?
Might be the appropriate time. I read Jason's letter, and he talks about a pad that needed a concrete pad, I think, as for getting off the bus. And he says something about it has to be with the something area, and I think he meant to say within the area. And I thought that just to be clear, because it's a little confusing, but if you make it if it reads within, then I think it makes sense. My guess is that that's what he was trying to say in that letter that we are currently discussing. I don't know
follow
whether
you,
we
Bruce.
need to. Yeah, I don't know whether we need to pull it up. I think we should just perhaps Pam, Nate, if you could have that letter, maybe look at it right now and see whether that's not correct. And if so, you could just deal directly with the town engineer to change that word.
Yeah, no, you're saying to have a larger pad, so if someone needs it to get off the bus, they have, there's basically a turning radius if they have a
Yeah.
mobility device.
I understand I think I understand what he's saying. It all makes sense. It's just that the wording in the letter doesn't communicate exactly what I think he intends to say.
All right.
Okay.
All right, 56, 57 are standard too, in terms of what we want for the final certificate in 57. So affordable units, we, this project provides, number 58 provides enough affordable units that some have to be at 80% AMI and some at 60%. And so that's what the condition 58 says. So according to Article 15, inclusionary zoning of the zoning bylaw, at least 12% of the dwelling units, 9 units, shall be and shall remain affordable in perpetuity. According to Article 15, 7 units shall be marketed to eligible households whose annual income may not exceed 80% of area median income, adjusted for household size as determined by HUD. And 2 units shall be marketed to eligible households whose annual income may not exceed 60% AMI. And so that, all that language basically just says that.
Okay.
So the rest of these are in terms of how it meets the definition in the bylaw, and it should be on the SHI.
Bruce, you have your hand up. Are you?
Oh,
Yeah, if I
Are
get
you
to
waiting?
61 is the unit breakdown for
right.
units.
So now I do have my hand.
Okay, Bruce.
Um, I would suggest that we delete item E. One of the affordable units shall be located on the 5th floor. That's fine. But I think and have access to a deck is an unreasonable requirement.
Well,
So-
there's not much point in having any part of E if we remove that. Isn't that true?
Yeah, and right now I have 4 4-bedroom units, which wasn't being proposed. It was more 3-bedroom. So I think we can talk about what we think is the right.
Yeah.
breakdown.
We have a plan that was submitted that shows the distribution of the units through the building, and there were 2 comments associated in the development application report, and one of them said that there should be one of them at least should have deck access, and the other says that some of them shouldn't be, or they shouldn't be next to stairs. And I take issue with both of those requirements, but more specifically with this one here for reasons that I mentioned already. So I would argue that we delete E out of number 61.
Nate, it sounded like earlier, although the building commissioner was recommending this, there's not any requirement for it, and it's really up to the discretion of the board.
Right. There's the ability of the board to say that we think, these are the appropriate affordable units.
Okay.
So
So board members, do you support Bruce's suggestion or do you oppose it? Karen?
I support Bruce's suggestion for the same reasons that he said, that he explained so well.
All right. Jesse has his thumb up. guess I'm okay with it. So I think that's a majority saying, go ahead and delete it.
And then the other piece to talk about is the number of bedrooms. So, a one bedroom, 3 2-bedrooms, you have 1 3-bedroom, and then 4 4-bedrooms. There was no proposal to have 4 bedroom units be affordable. This is just based on the proportionality of taking, the number of units and then breaking down the 12% and doing some rounding. I will, again, I think it's up to the board. I have heard sometimes that 4 bedrooms are hard to occupy, given the
Yeah,
number of.
that was, Bruce, are you?
I was going to ask, I guess I was going to ask whether the housing, the Affordable Housing Trust has ventured an opinion here, because I would imagine in town that would be the organization that would have the clearest knowledge of what the affordable housing market in Amherst is and whether there's a shortage of 4-bedroom units or not. So my question is, perhaps of Nate, do we have any indication from the Housing Trust, the Affordable Housing Trust, that 4-bedroom units we should take the opportunity of putting 4-bedroom units on the affordable housing register in this building?
No, this hasn't been discussed by the trust. And so, we could ask them. I know in the past, even the housing authority has said that 4-bedroom units are hard to occupy because, if you, you may have to have a minimum household size of so many occupants. So it becomes pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, I'll chime in. That's our thought as well. So we loaded it with 3 1-bed, 3 2-bed, 3 3-beds. That's our experience just really in practice of what is filled. And so that would be our suggestion. However you want to break it down, I'm fine with the way Nate suggests, like the 60% AMI, that 60 and 80, I think that's fine. But we would say 3 1-beds, 3 2-beds, 3 3-beds. And we're almost certain that they're going to be filled, which is like, that's really the point of this. So we did not include 4 bedrooms for the reason that we're talking about right now.
All right. Any expressions of support for the mix that Tom has proposed? Or any objections? Any comments about that? Bruce?
I think I would go with what Tom's suggesting, because in the room, I think that's where the greater experience is, which is why I asked whether the Affordable Housing Trust had ventured an opinion, and if they haven't, then I'm backing up to Tom and Barry's experience. So yes, as it spreads, as you have it currently now, I would support.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd have to make one other decision in terms of what is the other 60% unit. Is it a 1-bedroom or a 3-bedroom? We'd have to.
But wouldn't we want to do another 1-bedroom?
So, there's 2 units at 60% AMI. So, sorry, this essentially, we'd have to figure out what AMI levels these would be.
And what mix of 60 and 80 do we need? Is anything going to tell us that, or we can completely decide ourselves?
Well, because there's 3 bedroom sizes and only 2 units are required to be at 60%, you have to make a decision about what.
Okay, so that's the answer I needed. You're saying only 2 need to be at 60%.
Right.
Okay.
And for what it's worth, I'm talking to Gail. She's the one who does it. She said the 3-bedroom at 60% is probably the one that is, I don't want to say easier to fill, but there's more of a demand. It's probably the way to look at it.
Okay. Well, I think, that's more likely to be a family at 60%, which I think people would be supportive of rather than a single person at 60%. Jesse?
Yeah, I guess in the absence of a recommendation from the Housing Trust, if Tom and Barry know what will be filled, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. This looks like where I was headed, Nate. Okay, so any objections to what we now have on the screen? All right. Why don't we move on?
Sure. So
And,
yeah, all these
are we
conditions,
close, are we close to done, Nate? So we can take our break soon, or do we need to?
this is it. So I think we're pretty close, actually.
Okay, all right.
So, so just to reiterate that, all these conditions are about the affordable units that we have basically until the end of the conditions. There's one piece, we talk about, the applicant works with us to submit a local action unit to get it on the SHI. They're affordable in perpetuity. I think right here, number 68, there's a local preference. So up to 70% of the affordable units at initial lottery can be reserved for, eligible households that meet local preference, which is listed here. It's the permit granting, authority's ability to say it could be any percent. Up to 70% is the maximum. It could be 50%, it could be less. And so it's a discussion to have if you feel strongly about having a certain percent local preference.
I'm going to ask why 70% and why not just say 7 of the 9?
You just based on, it's a percentage.
Just in terms of the legislation and the regulations, it's.
Yeah, the state
expressed as a
regulations, right?
percentage?
It's a
Yeah.
percent, yeah.
Well, why don't we then put in parentheses, i.e. 7 of the 9, because I mean, basically it's a proportion and the question is whether we're rounding up or down. And so I thought it might just make it clearer if we said what it means for this project.
Well, we say no more than 70%.
So that'd be
So we would round down.
down, right?
All right, okay.
I mean, so, there is, some discussion out there that local preference is exclusionary, right? That if, you don't have a demographic, certain demographics in your town, the local preference doesn't help fill the units, equitably in terms of, who's available in terms of who wants affordable units. So, we have to justify this to the state anyways, that we have the need and demand. And so I just want to, let the planning board know that there are discussions about what is local preference, a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a lot of the conversation around affordable housing is about accommodating people who otherwise can't afford to live here.
Right.
Which implies they're not here until they move into the affordable unit. So local preference kind of works against that.
It could, or it could, or some people would say that, if we're providing some local support that, we're giving these categories, the ability to try to get into one of the units. Again, this applies only at the initial lease up, and then afterwards, everyone just goes on a waiting list. And so,
right. All right. Do we need to specify do we need to say a specific amount?
You could say 50% or up to no more than 70% is the maximum allowed by the state. And
right.
So,
folks, are you good with 6 out of 9? Jesse looks good. Bruce looks good. Can't see Karen. Karen looks good. And Fred looks good. I guess it's 6 out of 9.
all right. 70, the regulatory agreement shall be approved by the state and recorded at the Hampshire County Registry of Deeds prior to the issuance of any certificate of occupancy, with a copy provided to the building commissioner. I just wanted to call that out. I think that's the right order.
Nate, I would just put in front of maybe any final certificate of occupancy, or eliminate any and just puts like the issuance of the final, because I think then later, as we've experienced, right, as long as you're in the process, sometimes Rob will issue a temporary certificate of occupancy, but you don't get that final until everything's put to rest.
Yep.
Thank you.
Does that work for the board?
Yep.
All right, 72 and 73. Similar to, somewhat redundant to 70. The affordable unit shall be available, and the tenant selection process shall be in process. at the time of any full or partial certificate of occupancy for completed units. However, at the discretion of the building commissioner, a certificate of occupancy may be issued and exclude the affordable units until the tenant selection process has been completed and inspection services has been provided, documentation of the completed selection process. The affordable units shall be occupied at all times only by qualifying tenants in accordance with the regulatory agreement. And so this allows for what Tom mentioned. Sometimes the way the marketing of affordable units works and then the tenant selection, it can take a little bit of time to go through the list of applicants to qualify them and then get them into units. 73 is new, something we haven't done before with affordable units, but I think it's important. The applicant shall report to the building commissioner on the occupancy status of the affordable units at 6-month intervals following the issuance of the first certificate of occupancy until all affordable units are occupied by income eligible tenants. The report shall include reasons and explanations if the units remain vacant for an extended period of time and efforts taken to fill the units. And so sometimes we hear that with projects that have inclusionary units, an affordable unit might not be filled for a year or 8 months or some extended period of time, and staff will look into it. But I want to, put the onus on the applicant to come back and kind of follow up with this. We've never had the ability or conditions that do this, and so usually it's then staff, chasing it or hearing about it.
Tom, any objections?
No, I think it's a terrific condition.
All right.
All right, and then the last one for amenities, it just says the entire project site and building shall be smoke-free, non-smoking to the extent allowed by law. If
that's the heading amenities seems a little strange to be for that content.
I know.
It sounds like it ought to be talking about the roof decks and the workout rooms and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we can move this condition and put it somewhere else. That's it for the condition.
Isn't that kind of part of a management plan?
This is, I mean, I'd be okay moving this up into the general conditions.
Yeah, why don't we do that? All right, so we're gonna hold off, Tom, tonight. I know you don't want to come back and see us again in a month, but we're all looking forward to seeing you again. Everyone, I'm going to need a motion to continue to March 19th, I think it is. Is that right, Nate? March 19th. And at the moment, we don't have anything at 6:35 yet, do we?
No.
No, but we'll likely have something that evening as well, but.
Well, don't we want to kind of?
Oh, no, I agree. This should be first on the agenda.
It should be first and treat it quickly and move on.
Yep.
And just so
Okay.
I'm clear, nothing else is needed from us. We'll show up that evening. You open it, say, okay, you've got your variance approval.
Yeah,
and then
you show
vote.
up with your variance and we'll be expeditious with you.
Okay, perfect.
Any objections to my statement, board members? All right, I think I've got someone lined up to make a motion to continue and someone to second. Bruce?
So moved.
All right, thank you. Jesse?
I'll second that.
All right, board members? Starting with you, Bruce.
I'm an aye.
Thank you. Fred?
Aye.
Thank you. Jesse?
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well.
And Karen.
Oh, Karen, why do I keep forgetting you tonight?
Aye.
I think it's because you're at the bottom of my checklist here and there's a couple people who are not here. Sorry about that. Thank you. So that's 5 in favor, 2 absences. Tom, we'll see you on the 19th.
Be in a month. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll see you in March.
Right.
Time now is 8:39. I guess it's time for our 5-minute break. Please come back at by 8:45. Pam, did we lose Nate? Oh, there he is. Okay.
Yeah, no, he's there.
Yeah, he's there. I just, all right, time is 8:46. I'm hoping Bruce and Nate and Karen can come back. All right, Bruce is back. It's now down to Karen and Nate. There's Karen. There's Nate. Okay. All right, so the time now is 8:48 and we can continue with our agenda. Next item, number 4, general housing discussion. First part of that is to continue the footnote M discussion and possible vote to consider as a zoning amendment. I guess anybody from the housing subcommittee want to make a motion? I guess I'll thank you guys for withdrawing your motion 2 weeks ago and giving me 2 weeks to think about this while we waited for the next meeting. Jesse?
Sure. So yeah, it's a little ironic, but Doug, do you want to discuss it all? I mean, the 4 of us
Well,
have.
I have a couple comments I was going to make. The rationale for my objection to this, but I can do it before or after the motion. It doesn't matter.
Okay, then I'll move to vote that we adopt, I guess that we send this amendment to council. Is that the right motion to make?
Well, why don't you read what the amendment is? Because so we've got something, because I don't
But
know
is that the right thing to do? We're moving it because we're not approving it. We can't approve it.
Right, we would be recommending to council that for their
Okay, so for footnote M, we propose to change from 4,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet in each instance as follows. M, in addition to the areas required by this table for any existing dwelling units on the lot, the density for new townhouses, section 3.322, and apartments, section 3.323, shall not exceed one dwelling unit per 6,000 square feet of the remaining lot area, or in the case where there are no existing dwelling units, 6,000 square feet for each new dwelling unit beyond the first unit. So I move that we suggest that amendment to the zoning
Recommend
bylaw.
to town council.
Town council.
All right, anybody want to second it? Fred raised his hand before Bruce got his digital hand up. Okay, discussion, and maybe I'll just say my piece and then we can move on. But I will ask for public comment at some point soon. So if some of you in the public want to comment about this, now's the time to do it. So the points I wanted to make were, first of all, there was in the sort of document that the housing subcommittee sent to the planning board, there was discussion about the legitimacy or illogic of the reason that it was originally changed or previously changed to 4,000 square feet. I don't really care about the illogic in the past. My objection is that I do not want to be moving in the direction of reducing density in areas where there's high demand for housing. I think that's the wrong direction to move. And so, I know that some of the proponents of this kind of thing are living around the university in neighborhoods that are increasingly occupied by students. And, I do not think that it's a bad thing for students to be congregating around the university where they can walk or bicycle to school and leave their cars at home. Or not even have a car, although that doesn't seem to be the case with very many students that I see on my street. So I think that by passing this, we're preventing a natural demand from happening and a concentration of students around the university, which will continue, but just in a slower at a slower rate. This is also counter to the governor's efforts to create more housing. And I don't think that's a good look for Amherst, especially if we're interested in getting exemptions from some of the requirements. Thirdly, by letting more housing happen around the university, I think it will reduce or slow the pressure on other housing in town. And those are the neighborhoods that long-term are likely to stay predominantly residents rather than have a high concentration of students. So those are the reasons that I oppose the motion. I recognize I'm probably the only one in the room or on the board tonight who opposes it. So I can read the room and we can have whatever conversation we want to have, but I expect us to have a vote and move on. Karen?
I also think that we need more density in the middle of town. I think by approving the 6,000 square feet, going back on footnote M, gives us time to plan this density in a way that it's not going to destroy some very, in my opinion, essential areas, residential areas, which need to be preserved for the university, for the sake of everybody to have, because the spread of close to the university houses is so fast and occupies a lot of the central part, Lincoln Avenue, Sunset Avenue, all these places, which I think add a lot to the way the town feels, the residential feel, which I think is attractive to faculty and people that want to live here. That could so quickly be destroyed if we don't take measures to preserve it. It's not just one street after another. And yes, students are good, we need them. But look at these neighborhoods that were once residential neighborhoods, what they look like now. If you're going to Page Street and some of these other streets where you have maybe one family left, where that used to be all families, and walk there on a weekend and see what will happen to the inside of Amherst, of this residential area. This central part, I would say, will be lost if we don't act to preserve it. And then we have time to say, how can we do the infill in a way which is attractive, which will still allow families with children and not just students to be able to live here. It's going too fast and it needs to be regulated.
All right, Jesse?
Thanks. I respectfully disagree with your position. That's totally fine. I do need to push back a little bit that I do not think this is a not in my backyard situation. Yes, I live in the middle of one of the neighborhoods, as does Karen, but that's really not my motivation. I don't think that's Karen's either. We're really thinking about the whole town and the longevity of having people who want to live full-time, year-round, raise families, contribute to schools, libraries, etc. Be this a possibility to move in here. And the way we're going, I just don't think it's going to happen. And we'll quickly be, we're already priced out of that, and we're working towards bringing that back. That's all. Thanks.
Okay, Fred?
At the end of the day, I think, in fact, I'm quite certain that the people of the town want this. Yeah, I completely understand the principle that the general residence zoning district is a higher density zoning district. I don't have a problem with that. I live in high density housing in a 3-family house. And as I said, I don't have a problem with that, but the consequences of lowering this to 4,000, which should not have happened, is extreme. And at the end of the day, this is something that, well, when this came to a representative town meeting in November of, of 1993, when it came to a representative town meeting, the town meeting passed it unanimously. So, yeah, this is something that it should not have been decreased to 4,000, and we can correct that if we take this action now.
All right, any other comments from the board? I'll go ahead and ask the public if there are any members of the public who want to comment on this. All right, I don't see any. All right, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Starting with you, Bruce.
I'm an aye.
All right, Fred.
Aye.
Thank you, Jesse.
Aye.
Karen?
I,
All right, and I am a nay. Motion passes 4-1 with 2 absences. Nate, I guess we need to have a memo to town council recommending this change to the zoning for them to vote on, and then I guess send back to us and CRC.
Right.
All right, any more discussion about that? All right. The second part of our agenda for general housing had to do with the potential overlay for existing apartment complexes. Nate, have you got any new material on that, or has there been any advancement in terms of materials staff has available?
No, there hasn't been anything, any pen to paper. There were some comments submitted and forwarded to the board in terms of considerations for this. At one point we said we'd look at a map and kind of walk through the area. We could do that. My thought, like I said, was keeping it, south of Meadow Street and west of North Pleasant Street, so one quadrant. But no.
Well, what about Hobart?
Yeah, so I think that's something to talk about. I was really considering it, this one discrete area, contiguous area, not jumping streets. And so I guess that's something for the board to discuss if we wanted to.
Right. Okay. Jesse?
As reticent as I am to delay things, I think Lawrence in particular has not been part of the conversations. And I've, I don't know what to do. I feel like if we make any decisions now and move anything forward, we're gonna have to rehab the same conversation when the full board's here. So part of me feels like let's spare ourselves some time, and maybe the subcommittee, if we meet next, can work on some of the details and bring it back to the full board when everyone's here. This is
I think I'm fine with postponing a real discussion about this to a later meeting. Nate, do you think in 2 weeks you could have a boundary, at least a boundary drawing or something?
Yeah, Doug, you won't be here on the 5th, but I think
right.
I can have things to share.
Yeah. And then we had some conversation last time about, height and, but it was kind of all over the place, whether we were kind of at our 5-story standard or whether we'd even entertain some towers. So I don't know. It seems like the board seems to do better when we have something to react to.
Right.
So if you were to sort of draft something that we can then take shots at,
Sure.
that would probably be the way to go. Jesse?
I guess, and I don't know if it's too much to put together, at least for me, having some sense of how many units and bedrooms we're talking about with the different arrangements is really helpful also, just to think that way. So like, what's the current number of people that are housed there? And then with any iterations, what are we talking about? Just numbers wise.
Okay. Bruce?
I have asked Nate, I can't remember whether I did the board meeting or maybe it was at a housing subcommittee meeting. Or actually, no, it was by email because for this housing unit number chart. And Doug, you provided something. In fact, it was Kathy Shane, Councillor Kathy Shane, who asked me for these data. And I said, asked me whether the board had this. And I said, well, in various ways, but I said I knew that you, Doug, had put together a chart. And that's when I wrote you that email. And then Nate, you came with yet another chart. And I thought that your chart, Nate, was, so you were going to send that to me and then I could kind of consolidate. So if these data are already out there in some ways, and I can begin to help you put that together because I've got time to do this. So if you could just send me you've sent me a spreadsheet, a PDF of it, but I can't edit it. So if you can send me your actual XLS spreadsheet, then I can fold in what Doug's got and then put some additional columns in for things that Kathy was asking for and then perhaps go and do some digging around for myself and see whether I can be a useful contributor here.
Sure, yeah, sorry, I meant to, I looked and I didn't find it readily available, and then I forgot to dig into where that spreadsheet is. So what Bruce is talking about for the town, for the Housing Choice Grant, going back a number of years, we started keeping track of units that received building permits in a spreadsheet, and it was broken down by single family home, accessory, ADUs or accessory structures, and then multi-unit development. And then we have some other details with it. And it pulled from a number of data sources. It's something that we don't have one, it's not easily reportable in our software. So, it's been asked before, and it's being asked again to have something like this, and it would contribute to the discussion of, say, an overlay, or if we talk about something, in terms of units. And so Bruce has offered to update it. I actually have talked to staff about trying to use our new permit software to kind of create a database where this could be entered into and reported out. Again, just a discussion. So, I can share that with the whole board as well too, and you can see the spreadsheet, and then I'll find the Excel version too, Bruce, for you.
Okay, great.
Okay, good. Oops, hit hand down, Brucey.
Yeah. Okay, we'll postpone a longer conversation about this until later. And Nate, I think it would be great. I mean, if it's next time, great. If it's not till the time after that, that's probably okay too.
Yeah, no, since our discussion, I have been thinking about that. Like I've driven by, thought about buffers, height. So I just need to get like pen to paper and a map or two, and we can.
Okay. All right. Time is 9:06. Moving on to old business. Topics not reasonably anticipated. Anything, Pam or Nate? Nothing. Nope. New business, anything?
No.
Karen?
We mentioned that at some time we wanted to put on our agenda the idea of slowing traffic down. That's our constituents keep asking me, is there anything that the planning board can do to kind of slow traffic in downtown, particularly Amity, and try to work toward making it more pedestrian friendly in that way? Can we put that on our agenda as something that we?
Isn't that something that we have a transportation subcommittee or a transportation committee in town? Aren't there other entities more appropriate than the planning board, Nate, that would deal with traffic calming?
There is, I think it's a good point. Jesse had also emailed and asked about food trucks, and other people have asked about food trucks. And although it's not necessarily under the planning board's jurisdiction, say food trucks, or say what Karen's talking about, things happening in the right of way, it could be that we have an agenda item. It could be related to traffic calming, and the planning board could then, vote to recommend or send a letter to, town council, transportation advisory committee, or others. And so it could, I don't see any harm in having it be an agenda item, and then the board doesn't have jurisdiction over it, but we could recommend others consider things. And I think that's fine to do.
Okay. All right. So Nate, maybe it's something to put on an upcoming agenda.
Yeah, I mean, South Hadley's, right? There's been articles in the paper, the whole town of South Hadley. There's a survey asking residents what they thought. They're trying to implement it on a few streets, different traffic calming measures. And so I think, if the board has ideas or recommendations, or just, try to point people to areas of concern, I think that's worthwhile.
Okay, Jesse?
Well, I'm certainly happy to talk about these things in this group. Do we have the expertise to even recommend something? Like, it does feel outside of what we're talking about normally, and I would like us to focus on the planning pieces.
Yeah, I guess when I say recommendations, I mean, it's like really generic, like look at traffic calming measures or safety measures. It's not like we're going to research what those are, just.
Yeah, I'm kind of in Jesse's court on this one. I'd rather talk about things we have to talk about than, and that we're the only ones that do talk about, and leave the other stuff to the other groups.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's not a real issue, Karen, like,
Yeah, I just,
but-
but the Transportation Advisory Board, is that what the name of
committee,
it?
TAC, yeah.
You know, that's their bailiwick. Oh, we lost Nate. Karen and then Bruce.
I just think it would not take that much time, and I think to give a nudge in this direction, that this is something we have a lot more visibility. Nobody really hears that much of people tuning in from the town to the transportation committee, and they do to us, and I keep getting comments about this. So I think if we take a little bit of time to recommend that this is something that be taken up, it would be helpful.
Okay, Bruce?
Karen, I was just going to suggest that perhaps you talk to the chair or somebody perhaps you know. Anyway, somebody on the Transportation Advisory Committee, and find out what their level of interest and activity is. You know, in other words, it may be that they're already doing something, or it may be that there may be, in other words, rather than have us go in cold on this, I would prefer to have some particular strategic reason why we're spending time on it, and you could provide that by having first of all surveyed the group and verified that, as you say, that some engagement by the planning board actually would be useful. I'd like to know that that was true. You were speculating there, but you don't have to. You could go and find out.
All right, Jesse?
I actually have been meeting with Tracy from the Transportation Committee, so I kind of have been active in that way.
And they've indicated that action by and energy from the planning board would be useful?
No, they haven't actually. No.
Okay. Have you any sense whether they think we'd be meddling in their territory?
No.
Okay. All right.
But that's not the case either. I'm just going to withdraw this. I'll bring it back in a different way after I coordinate with them. Good point.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna jump in. I think, Karen, if you wanted to, you could email, the town manager's office. Or, if you send me an email, I can forward it on. That's fine. If you email me about that, and I can forward it on to staff and others.
Yeah, I mean, passing along complaints is something we certainly can do as individuals.
The thing
And
is that these are not really so much complaints, but these are very good ideas from a lot of neighbors, and they just say, can't you sort of bring this up? And I have talked to Tracy about it, and then it gets very technical about, like, do you want to study the map and see where the sidewalk should go and things like this. So, and I think we have also sent emails to the transportation and maybe to you, Nate, too, in this direction about the food truck, about parking, just different things. But yes, I'll pursue it, and I'll be more specific if I bring it up. Thanks.
okay. All right, great. Time is 9:13. We'll go on. Form A and R subdivision applications, Pam?
No,
Nothing tonight. Upcoming ZBA applications?
Nate, I don't have a report, but do you, are you aware?
There's a few upcoming applications, one for, a duplex. The variance request for Tom. There's a battery energy storage system on Sunderland Road that's proposed to be made smaller, so they're going to amend their permit. But I don't have any other projects necessarily.
Okay. Upcoming SPP, SPR, SUB applications.
Sure. So the Jewish community of Amherst will likely come before the board on March 5th to request a site plan review modification to install a solar canopy over the parking lot. and then there's small changes like a transformer pad in the back of the building, but it's a pretty straightforward project. And then Archipelago Investments has submitted a site plan review application to put buildings down by Atkins. And so they had previously requested a variance, and I can't remember if it was denied or withdrawn. I think it was withdrawn, but anyways, they've redesigned it so that there's mixed-use buildings, and it will need some waivers or a special permit from the planning board for possible height and setbacks. And so that'll probably be on the second March meeting.
Okay, Fred?
Yeah, Nate, I remember talking to Hilda Greenbaum about the one down near Atkins, and that was an actual rejection by the ZBA. That was rejected.
All right. All right. Committee and liaison reports. Bruce, anything for PVPC?
Yes, there was a meeting last Thursday. It was, I have to say that I should report that it's interesting experience, this Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. There are Zoom meetings, of course. There are upwards of 20 or 30 people. Two-thirds or more than two-thirds of the screens have got people's screens are blacked off the way we are when we do our 5-minute break. It's a very discouraging experience participating in this thing, because you really feel that more than half the people are probably either not there or doing something else. So it's hard to get energized. And I think you've heard me in a different way on this before. So it's not very satisfying to know how this function works. However, they did have reports from two folks who were giving presentations. One on the political situation in Washington, and another, in Boston, vis-a-vis the current legislative agendas and so forth. The report from Washington was, as you can imagine, was surreal. The one from Massachusetts was much more interesting and so forth, as we begin a 2-year legislative season, apparently. I mean, apparently I didn't realize that our legislative seasons run 2 years and not 1, but I'm learning. We were told that beginning in April, we will be doing face-to-face meetings, because it seems as though the state are not able to do what they've done before, which is to renew the ability for us to conduct ourselves by Zoom. It's not that piece of legislation hasn't been filed, apparently. It's just that it's been filed in conjunction with other pieces into a bill. It's not a unique item in a bill, as far as I could understand. It's clustered, and so it's going to be more contentious, or it's going to be just more complicated, and it'll take longer. And so the PVPC meeting in April, we are told, which is the next meeting, will be a face-to-face meeting. So I guess people will either be not at all there, or they won't at least be behind their Zoom cameras turned off. So I don't know what that means for planning boards, for buildings, elementary school building committees, all these other things that happen around town. But it may be that we are heading towards face-to-face meetings, as far as I could gather. There were other items. The town assessments were passed, and budgets and so forth was discussed and set up for the next meeting. And there was one final piece. The Municipal Joint Transportation Committee or Commission of the PVPC has 2 people from each of the 40-odd towns. And this was another one of these very not terribly well attended meetings. And over the past year, Amherst, the 2 people from Amherst on that committee haven't attended a single meeting. So Nate, I was put it on my agenda to say, do we know who are the appointed members to that PVPC subcommittee or that regional committee? Because they're having increasingly trouble getting a quorum, and it's apparently because people are appointed to these committees and then they leave town or they die or they whatever, and they're not reappointed, and so these committees are kind of dying on the vine. And but this is a committee apparently which is with these transportation budgets and so forth not being at the table is perhaps consequential. So I thought we should find out who those people are and make sure they realize that they are either not attending or that they're disappeared, and we should ask the appointing authority to have 2 more people who will show up. Bill Dwyer, the fellow in Hadley, the neighbor, is the chair, and so he's quite active. So we've got a lot of activity just across the line. But from Amherst, and there's probably a third of the other towns, no representation at all in the past 12 months. There's a bunch of other things, but that's essentially the grab bag of interesting things that I learned at the last meeting.
All right. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for your
Can I
service.
ask whether we know whether this, are we prepared for face-to-face in a month or 2?
Nate?
I guess we'll have to wait and see. I know that it's also in the Municipal Empowerment Act, filed by the governor. So there's, some thought is that if the legislation isn't ready, there may be an executive order that extends hybrid or remote meetings. So right now I'm not, we'll do whatever we need to do. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And then in terms of Bruce, in terms of your Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, we list you and then Jack as the alternate. So I guess would be asking again, probably Angela in the town manager's office, who are these other, appointed officials? I'm not aware of.
Maybe I should send you an email with
Yes.
the best effort I can to see what that actual name of that commission is,
Yeah, that'd be
because I'll try and remember to do that, and then maybe I can send it to Angela and copy you. I think I've got her email address.
But you're sure it's not you, Bruce, right?
No. This the commission membership is clear. It's this other body that is a part of or in the orbit of the Planning Commission.
Okay. All right. Jesse, anything from the Housing Subcommittee?
We did not meet last week. We're hoping to meet next week. I can also report I was asked to go to the Housing Trust meeting last week, which I did. And it was how do I say this? It was a tense conversation. They just wanted to hear what subcommittee was up to. And conversation quickly turned to student home definition, and there was a lot of resistance to that idea, which I like to think we talked through. But yeah, it was good to get some different perspectives for us to consider as we try and move forward with that. So
Okay, Karen, Design Review Board.
We're gonna meet again this Monday. We haven't met since the last meeting.
Okay. Report of chair, time is 9:23. My only thing to report is that I will be away at the next meeting, so Johanna will preside. Nate and Pam, anything from staff?
No, I'll mention the downtown design standards. That's an ongoing project, and there's a working group, I think, happening next or a week and a half, and then there will be some public meetings to look at draft standards. So I just make sure everyone stays aware of that.
Okay. All right, time is 9:24. I guess we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Doug.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Doug.
Everyone.
Night, Pam.
Good night, Mr. Marshall. I'm trying to find the record button. Where the heck is
You want me
it?